Okay, so we are online. So welcome everybody and welcome to the fourth event of our Robot Festival. My name is Francesca Tramacere and I am the GrowBot project manager, and it's a great pleasure for me to introduce two of our principal investigators. Mainly because there are two women, two great researchers that are great experts worldwide in their field. Usually because these two fields are generally largely populated by men. And today with me there is Yasmin Meroz. Yasmin is a senior lecturer at the School of Plant Science and Food Security of Tel Aviv University in Israel. She is a physician with a very long experience in mathematics applied to biological systems. In GrowBot, Yasmin is the leader of the research activities dedicated to the modeling of biological plants, of a biological system that will inspire the design of robot control. And on the other side, we have Cecilia Laschi. Cecilia is full professor at the Biorobotica Institute of Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna in Pisa, in Italy. She said is a roboticist. She has a great experience in humanoid robotics, in neurorobotics, and she's considered one of the pioneers of soft robotics. In GrowBot, Cecilia is the leader of the working page dedicated to the robot sensory motor architecture. So your two activities are strictly related, because the outcome of Yasmin works represent a sort of input for Cecilia. So let's start with Yasmin. I would like to ask you, Yasmin, why is it so important to model, to define a theoretical explanation of a biological system? And what is your main challenge in robots?
So thank you, Francesca, for having me here today. And that's a very good question in general in biology, and ask that a lot. Why is it important to do mathematical models? Why can't they just do experiments in the lab and that's it? But mathematical modeling has gives the researcher a lot of power, in the sense that when you have a mathematical model is written in a language, okay, that mathematics is just like English and German and Italian. And when we write a model, it means that we write our hypothesis. This is how we think the system works. And from this, we can make a prediction. So from this model, I can predict that if I will do such and such an experiment, this will be the result. So then I can go and do this experiment and see whether my model is correct or not. And if it's not right, then it means that, okay, something in my understanding of the system is flawed, and I have to change my understanding. So in that sense, it's a very useful research method in itself, because it means that you can really say in words what you understand about this system. And furthermore, the ability to make predictions is enormous, because this means that if your model is correct, it means that you don't have to go and do every single experiment with every different type of stimuli and environmental cues, because you already know the answer for the whole spectrum of stimuli. So again, this is a very powerful tool. My challenge in GrowBot is I look at behavioral processes in climbing plants, particularly decision making. So how a climbing plant can decide whether support is a good candidate to attach to or not, so it's mechanically stable or not. Or let's say I have a lot of light on the right, so I prefer to go to the right. But on the other hand, I have a good support or something to attach onto on the left. So how does the plant integrate this different type of conflicting information and make a strategic decision? And the idea is that the mathematical modeling of these decisions can be somehow a basis or feed into the control system. That's what Cecilia does, but in a robotics language that makes sense to a robot.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. This is very interesting, because I think this can, your explanation can help people to understand more and more, the importance of all the disciplines in a multidisciplinary team like the GrowBot's consortium, and also the importance of, I think, theoretical field like mathematics in a more applicative field like robotics. So in this way, I would like to ask to Cecilia, and moving to Cecilia. Cecilia, you have a great experience in robotics. So I would like to ask you, what is missing in robotics from a control point of view? And what do you think that are the key features that make plants so interesting from a robotics like you?
Thanks also from my side for inviting me. I mean, it's a very nice initiative, this one, to share the many exciting things that we see in our project that I think are really worth sharing with people. And the plants are really amazing from many points of view, and including the robotic point of view. So you asked first what's missing in robot control. Robot control is a fantastic discipline with really a wealth of knowledge in theoretical terms and also in techniques, in practical terms. So we can control robots very nicely, very precisely in very accurate tasks. But still, we see some limitations when they have to manage with natural environments. So that's where we want to take a bio-inspired approach. And what's missing? What's the principle we would like to learn from nature? What we see in nature are very elegant solutions for sensory motor control. And when I say elegant, I mean something that is very efficient and much simpler than what we can do in our robots. So it's not a simple systems. I mean, biological systems are not simple at all. They're very complex, but the way they can control their behavior, taking so many inputs from outside, through their sensory systems, and having such a sophisticated motor behavior is really amazing, and it's something that in robotics term would require a very complex control system, while in nature such control systems are, yes, they are complex, but when they work, they find a lot of simplifying principles so that let's say the kind of computation that is done is simplified a lot. The number of synapses that are used are much less than the available synapses, so the system is complex, but it works in an elegant way. And this is what I think we should take for robotics from nature. And what we can take from plants is absolutely in this framework. As I said, they are amazing because plants are completely different from the models we used to have in robotics, like the human brain, the human system in humanoid robotics, or other kind of animal models. Plants are completely different, but they have a lot of sensory inputs. They control a complex behavior because when they grow, they actually do a very complex motor movement, let's say. And the way they do that must be very simple in computational terms because they don't have a brain or a nervous system the way we are used to think of it. So what I expect to find in plants are these elegant mechanisms for controlling a complex sensory motor behavior, but with a very efficient computation. So very efficient.
It's really amazing, like plant kingdom. It's inspiring a dynamic field like robotics. Instead of plant, generally I consider a sort of a passive system, that are characterized by slow motion, and this is very, very unexpected, from the general point of view. So Coming again back to Yasmin. Yasmin, I would like to talk about your recent activity in the art. So you have worked with artists on the installation of Planet. Planet is an exhibition at the Tel Aviv University Art Gallery. Do you want to tell us the meaning of this work and the importance for a researcher to create synergies and collaboration with experts of other fields?
Yes. So the name of the exhibition of the installation is called tropism, and tropism is exactly the directional response of plants to external stimuli. So if you put your plant next to the window, it senses the direction of light, and it will grow towards the light. So this is the tropism, phototropism. And the point of this installation was that my feeling is that people tend to look at plants as stupid, let's say, and passive, and certainly not active or behaving in any way. But I think that the reason why people think that is that it's a psychological boundary. Just because we don't, plants move, but they move very, very slowly due to growth. So as humans, we don't perceive their motion, and therefore they look static and passive. And animals, on the other hand, of course, move in a speed that we can perceive, and therefore it's obvious for us that they behave and make decisions and so on. So what we did in this installation is to basically play exactly on the verge of where humans can finally perceive motion. And we have these big robots that look like kind of artificial plants, these black stalks that are 2 meters high, so they're also very big terms of the dimensions, and they have sensors, light sensors, and then we have these pink sunrises and sunsets in the room, and they perceive the direction of light, and they bend towards it, very much like plants, and slowly but quickly enough so that as humans we can perceive this. And then basically the point is to try to get the audience to say, oh wow, if I were to imagine now that all the plants, when I go on the street, I have trees and plants everywhere, and I were able to perceive their movement, wow, then then suddenly you understand that plants are not something passive, but rather closer to animals and human beings. And then the idea, the notion of having behavior and decision making and memory and so on in plants doesn't become so strange, but is more something that we can relate to. So that was the main goal of this exhibition. And regarding your second part of your question, the importance of these collaborations. So I think there are different levels to this question. The first is just even dissemination of ideas coming from science and research to the general audience, because now it means that people who have seen this work will know what tropism is, will be aware that plants make decisions and so on, and will change their point of view about plants in general. So that's already one reason to do this sort of collaboration. The second one is a bit unexpected, because while we were building these robots, okay, it's funny to use the word robot when I have Cecilia here, those real robots, but those toy robots, let's say, then suddenly when you try, I think Feynman said that if you build it, you understand it. So when you try to build something that emulates a plant and it doesn't work, you realize that you're understanding, like mathematical models, but this is one step further because it includes the physics of the structure. Then you see that there are things that you don't really understand, or there are things that happen with the robots. There was some mechanical issues that we didn't foresee, that suddenly I understood things on the biological system that I had not understood before. So I really felt that there was this two-way street. I mean, science was the inspiration for the art installation, but basically the art installation also gave back to science. So in that sense, there really is a feedback, because it makes you think about things that otherwise maybe you would never have thought about.
For sure, it's
in a nutshell.
Yeah, it's very interesting also because we hope to have the chance to visit your next exhibition, and maybe you can work on the GrowBot's results. So, and I think that your answer is also the perfect introduction of my last question for Cecilia, no? Because with Cecilia, the people often are scared about the robot because they think that the robot can steal jobs because they believe that the robot are dangerous and so on. So do you think that the roboticist could do anything more for helping people to see robot as an opportunity instead of a danger?
Well, that's a $1 million question.
Yeah.
That's a question I'm very used to receive. But some of the words by Yasmin actually made me think of something different. Probably people are scared by robots because they move. It's the same difference between animals and plants.
Yeah.
And generally we take animals as model and we want our robots to move and move fast. But then it's probably what make them more scary, for example, than computers. Because also on this point of view, if you ask people who is stealing jobs, it's the robots, not the computers. But if you look at reality, today is definitely much more what computers can do instead of employees. Than robots. So as a robotics is when I hear this kind of fears. I mean, first time they were so strange to me. I mean, I couldn't understand why people could think this kind of stuff. And I tried to go a bit more in depth and to look at data and try to understand better. But then I realized that actually it's a mix of robotics and computerization, artificial intelligence. Is difficult to mention. So I realized I was, as a roboticist, when I hear the word robot, I think of a physical system of the robots I used to make. But then I realized that's not the case. For the people, and as I said, and in the beginning, I was surprised because I said, "Oh, okay, are our robots so good? I mean, good enough to replace people in jobs?" And actually, unfortunately, it is not. I mean, robotics technologies, unfortunately, is not yet at the level of replacing humans in all those jobs that are lost today. Which are jobs in the services in many fields, which are I wouldn't say lost or stolen, but transformed. They are being transformed by the digital revolution. So it's a transformation. Of course, many jobs are lost, many others are coming. Maybe the balance is negative. But there are so many reasons, and if you look at real data and the real analysis about this, you see that robotics is really is irrelevant. I mean, it's the impact of robotics is really negligible. But that's the real data, the real stuff. The perception is still that robots can steal jobs. And from my robotics point of view, on one side, I wish our robots, our technology is good enough. And let's say relieving humans from those jobs that are inhumane and are done by people that are just, exploited by other people. And on the other side, I'm sure that this kind of technology can become, on the opposite, an important economic source. Especially, in Europe. Europe is quite strong in robotics, state-of-the-art technology, and we are at the forefront, even in industry, and our companies are strong. So robotics can really become an important economic source and source of jobs in the future.
It should be an opportunity, no? Because in this in this way, we can give to the people a positive view for the future, because robot will be an opportunity for all of us. So I think that more or less our time is over. I just checking if there are questions about our talk. Not yet, but I'm sure that the people can should be free to post any kind of question in our chat, and we will be happy to reply also later. And I would like to thank you very much, my speakers today, and it was me a great pleasure to stay with you. And please don't miss the next event that should be on a Thursday. And thank you very much for your attention. Bye.
Bye, thanks.
Bye, Yasmin. Bye, Francesca.
Bye.